Rats. Okay, so Galen the Wise versus Rats coming up pretty soon. We also
Okay,
have
awesome.
uh, yeah, Bobby Big Balls versus YCZ, which I think will be one of the more entertaining matches, or one of the matches I'm really looking forward to seeing.
Hmm. Rats versus Galen the Wise is Fox Falco, which you know is a classic.
Yeah.
It's a good matchup.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and yeah, Falco Samus, I guess from Bobby YCZ is interesting. I don't know as much about that one, but I have a vague idea of what both characters are kind of looking for. Um, sweet.
Yeah, so we are going to be jumping into that Fox Falco match, like you mentioned. Um, uh, it's so tempting to talk about Falco Samus because I think it's kind of an interesting matchup. But right at the moment, we do want to be covering what is on screen. And so far, both players kind of just sort of trading. Rats does manage to get back. That was kind of the first big advantage. And doesn't end up following up on a pretty money dare. You get a grab there, you get a shine, but...
Yeah, so Radar, what do you look for as a Falco main in this matchup?
Yeah, I
At
mean,
what percent?
one of the interesting and like kind of like OP things about Falco is, you know, we talked about like ASCI percents, and those like absolutely do matter, but like his shine makes it so that like you kind of like never really have to worry about CC if shine is the opening. So because of that, like laser into shine can be kind of really safe. If you're kind of mixing up the way you're approaching. So that can be something really good at low percents. In general, shine is kind of like the big way you get an opening. And usually it's sort of like, are you using dare? Are you using nair to kind of create that shine opening? Or something like a laser?
Hmm. No, that's a good point. The dare is also very good, but yeah, kind of unsafe against Fox, at least below 30, below knockdown percent, or below like later below knockdown percents, where you can't do the dare that I've seen Fiction, for instance, use recently.
Yeah, that's been kind of a more modern innovation, but one of the other downsides of down air, kind of a weird phrasing, is that if you catch them like jumping, it's kind of similar to Fox Drill. They will be like actionable before you are, and so Fox can get a shine if he jumps just before you hit him with the drill. So there's like a couple different kind of aspects of it, and since Fox is so often like running around and short hopping, it can be tricky to like accidentally get caught in that situation. And of course, there is less safe on shield than Nair. So it's sort of like a risk-reward thing, but the percents absolutely matter, and Dare is kind of the more valuable hit.
And there is the mix-up there too, where if they are jumping because they read you're going to approach them with a dare, if you jump into their nair, you're going to get mixed like pretty hard because you're not crouch canceling it. Ooh, nice sweet spot from Galen the Wise there. That's a tough one to get to space around, not only the space around the dare, but also to be able to get the counter hit after. So Galen the Wise takes game one. Very solid box Fox from I forget where exactly they're from, but they're obviously a West Coast player here.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I've definitely watched Galen play a bunch of times in events like this. Yeah, pretty good stuff so far. Kind of interested to see the counter pick. This is one of those matchups where like it's sort of more style and preference for counter picks as opposed to like larger, more objective kind of pros and cons. So it sort of tells you a bit about the player as to where they go. Falco ended up going to Dreamland. To me, that says I want a bit more space. I want to maybe kind of play the laser game a bit more. But it really does still depend on the player. We can go for the down air and then down smash if you get the tech.
Yeah, I think this is an interesting pick. I think in most cases, I feel like Battlefield kind of does the same thing, but slightly better for Falco. On this stage, it feels like it's a lot harder for Falco to challenge the side flat, which is kind of is traditionally a very good spot for Fox in this matchup, relatively.
Yeah, I think to me, like Battlefield, even though it's like space, it's still not like, it feels like being able to laser more, at least for me, is quite valuable. We haven't actually seen that many lasers from Rats, but it still has worked out just because of that early kill at the beginning of the game.
I'm.
Galen doesn't
Oh
get
yeah. execution error there on both players actually. But yeah, as someone who plays a good amount of Fox, I actually quite like this stage as Fox against Falco. This is probably the place I like to counterpick second or third, depending on how good my chain grab is feeling, you know?
Yeah, definitely the center does give you the extra kind of chain grab room. I mean, I honestly think this is just a good stage for both characters in like most matchups. Even the matchups like that kind of people traditionally talk about as very favored, like a Puff matchup, for example. I still feel like both Fox and Falco are generally able to execute on their game plans quite well, and like the stage kind of just seems like well suited to their skill sets, in my opinion.
No, I totally agree. I think well, it's hard because yeah, with Spaceys, it's like even their bad stages are still pretty good for them. Because the platform height, like their full hops and stuff, are so good on Dreamland, for instance. Like Fox's full hop to the side plat or Falco's to the top plat is just a really strong tool in a lot of matchups. Not to reduce it to just that, but you know.
That's like a good point because like when you talk about the full hop, beautiful up to by the way. This is really going the distance. Going from there, maybe down air, even safer. Doesn't go for the kind of ginger reset. And already this is a huge lead.
I think one of the things there, Galen was far enough away from the ledge where where he didn't have to risk Rats didn't have to risk him teching there. Whereas in other spots, that's where the ginger nair is really good, is to like push them away, so they can't either SDI onto stage or into the ledge.
Yeah, definitely the SDI on into the stage, like into the ledge or stage, is very frustrating. So really shows kind of Rats' awareness to not kind of go for like the automatic, this is good in 95% of situations that looked like this, and instead realize that there was a guaranteed kill available.
Falco, there's not a lot Fox can do in that spot, and good on Rats for understanding that. Tournament winner leads to the end of the game. Falco very good at covering that because his the combination of his short hop and his full hop height make the you can react to it basically very well because of how much height he gets on both those things.
Yeah, you know, we were talking a bit about the full hop to side platform and top platform for Fox and Falco respectively. That's a really good example of when we were talking about like Dreamland generally being a decent stage for them, is like when you think about characters that like Dreamland, like a Samus or a Peach, those characters kind of struggle with those exact like kind of defensive patterns. So like as a Falco player, I can basically avoid everything Peach does just by full hopping the top platform. So
yeah, it's a get out of jail free card for sure.
It's very silly.
So this is an interest. A lot of people I feel go back and forth on this stage. I think it is definitely like a styles make fights kind of thing. I feel that the chain grab in a lot of ways is a little more consistent than Falco's combos. Maybe not necessarily, but Falco's laser is just like so good, and Fox's full hop is like a real commitment on this stage. Whereas on Fox's, like we were talking about earlier, Fox makes a bad full hop on a stage like Dreamland or Battlefield, you can just bail to top platform.
Yeah, that is definitely a really important thing to acknowledge. Like there, you know, there's the commitment that you just mentioned. One of the other things that I think really does help, like is a good sign if you're seeing Falco play on the stage, crazy shine, is their ability to play around the SDI way on down air. And we saw that early on with Rats, and we'll probably see it again, that Rats opted to go for options like, say, grab or down tilt, or things that cover the SDI away. And if you know your opponent's going to do that, and you're not able to counter it, like you get very little on the stage.
No, you're exactly right with that. It feels like Rats is kind of running away with it on this game. This is supposed to be Galen's counterpick. You know, he's doing some stuff to play around the lasers, but he'll do something like power shield or take laser, and then his movement's just a little slow after. And that's the thing that you really want to, like, if you are trying to play around Falco's lasers by taking them or playing like a power shielding, you need to be moving out of it so quickly, or else it's like an impotent option essentially.
Yeah, and I actually am so bad at that. I find it like so difficult. It's one of those things that like the Melee community has collectively just like learned to handle at a high level. And as a Falco player, even though Falco benefits from being able to do that, I'm just like sort of skirting around, getting like really good kind of frame perfect or 1 or 2 frames late on the acting on a hit stun from laser, because it's tricky, man. It's really difficult.
No, for sure. Also, Rat's getting a lot out of this full hop, which feels kind of unsafe, but if it's working, you know, it is kind of, the onus is on the Fox to read your like fast fall timing on a stage like this, you know.
Still gonna pick it up. Absolutely. Yeah, that seemed like a back air would just be safer in every way, but maybe Rat's kind of showing that they're anxious to close it out. Good back air, and that is gonna do it. Close it out all the same.
I feel like Falcos generally need to be more ready to go for suicide down air, and not just in a spot like that where it doesn't matter, but you know, I always say Falco's suicide down air is just a rest.
It's one of the most OP edge guard options in the game. Like,
it actually has no counterplay.
Yeah, you don't think about it that way, but it is one of those things where, like, of course it has a high downside, but the downside is like can be easily mitigated by A, it's the last stock, or B, you're just like at a pretty high percent where it just, and it's also out for so long, so it's such a forgiving thing to go for in a lot of situations.
And if you're really awesome, you can trade with the up B.
Yeah.
And when you trade with the up B, you just come back and it's awesome.
Yeah. Then it's not a suicide down air anymore though. Like,
the
government categorizes it in a different way.
Yeah, no facts. So Stadium's interesting. I also think of this as like traditionally Falco's probably number 2 stage or number 1 stage around either this or Battlefield, you know? I'm surprised that Galen isn't using a stage like Fountain or Yoshi's to really abuse the fact that Rats doesn't seem very willing to scrap with him.
Yeah, I get the feeling that, like, I have this a lot where it's like I should probably do this thing, but I just don't like playing that way. But that's the play style that will probably counter what my opponent is doing. And you mentioned earlier, because you're a better player than me, that like we'll all see what my opponent's doing and try to kind of counterpick around that. And I think that's like the winning strategy. So in Galen's case, like being able to scrap and not give Rats kind of neutral control to the lasers, and kind of leveraging Fox's speed will make Rats much less effective. But I think Galen wants the space.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because Galen is also like I said earlier, a box Fox, and those players who play on the box, especially with 3-frame jump squat characters, really benefit from the scraps. Because they just get aerials out so quickly, like a gravity nair is frame 7 basically.
That's a beautiful forward air. Yeah, no, definitely a good point. Box makes the game act a little bit different, given how fast you can be due to the controller's layout. Not trying to get into that though.
No, of course.
Not that I'm accusing you of that either. I'm like,
yeah.
I can see the Twitch chat even though I can't, so I don't want to go there. But right now they've really evened this up. Pretty comparable on both ends. I like the CC F smash, but doesn't follow that up on the tech chase. Good up tilt.
Yeah, maybe Galen really did need the space, but he also did need some sort of platform to be able to bail to. Without the top platform that Dreamland provides, that Falco can bail to. I love the ledge dash full hop back air. That move is so good and very underrated, I think. So, add DI on the down smash though. That's tough.
Yeah. I think because most people don't down smash there, so good awareness again from Rats to kind of go for an option that's like a bit of a mix-up.
That was a really good combo, but not quite there.
Yeah, and it was like even the F tilt was a good option. It was just like either a little too early or late. I can't remember exactly, but it still would have worked.
So we got another bunch of knockdowns. Yeah, that little weird interaction that happens when a move that would send into tumble does like a little less damage. I forget exactly what the specifics, like the melee science of it is, but happens with like Sheik F tilt, Falco Shine all of the time.
Yeah. So Galen actually kind of really turning that around. This has been a pretty solid set so far. We've kind of had it go back and forth, and it still feels like hard for me at least to call like which way it's gonna go. No,
and another thing about spacey matchups generally is the counter picks aren't particularly strong. They're not as polarizing as a Marth FD, you know. So found an interesting pick. Again, based on what we've been saying about the way the match is going, these counter picks haven't really been following that, but the players know more about what they like to do and what they're looking for than we do. So, oh, that's really tough from Rats. A really unfortunate SD.
Wanted the input on the jump, barely missed it. Went for kind of like a pretty frame tight punish there. I like the idea, right? But it's just painful to start that way. One of the things that you really can kind of see in sort of a non-direct way is how good is the player at keeping their kind of mental game strong when they kind of throw something away like that. And so far, it seems like Rat's pretty good at it. Great SCI, though, from Galen to get out of that punish. And that's what I was talking about earlier.
That aggressive downer to come back, but that interaction we talked about earlier where Fox can just shine out of the downer if he's in the air was that ended up coming up, so that was kind of interesting to see.
This is one of the things that actually, like, I always think about this because whenever I do commentary, it's like sort of trying to articulate like what makes the game interesting, why is this game like kind of as deep and beloved as it is, and one of the reasons or like good examples of that, once again missing the tech there, but it's probably because Rats like delayed the down air just a little bit. But yeah, what I was saying is just as like things develop in this matchup, it's almost always develops in like a rock paper scissorsy way, where you have like you get a new option and there's like some kind of mix up or counterplay where you now have to like play around what they're doing and really play the player, and it's very exciting to watch because of that.
No, I think that's one of the reasons why people do keep coming back to this matchup. They consider it one of the all-time greats. It's so dynamic and always evolves over time.
Yeah, like, and an example of that would be this STI away on the Shine, where like originally that's kind of like the guaranteed follow-up. Great up smash, by the way, speaking of guaranteed follow-ups. And then, you know, if they do STI away, Falco can opt to do other stuff, like a grab or something, and kind of try to play around that and anticipate that. And then kind of it's just like each level adds a new kind of like, what are you going to do? What am I going to do? I'm going to try to be ready for whatever it is, but there's no perfect option.
No, totally. This is a last stock game. You know, we had a knockdown there from Rats, but you know, now it's kind of even. And a Nair will knock down from Galen, so he has maybe a slight advantage. And now again, dead even. But they're both full hopping around, you know, playing kind of their safe options. Like I like to think of it, even though it is good in a vacuum as like a mix-up. When you do it a lot, you kind of are getting into the please run into my move territory, you know.
We have seen both players trading their corner positions so frequently. Doesn't opt to go for the laser there too. That would have been quite a good option, but you know, a little bit indecisive is Rats, and the dare from Edge, that's gonna do it. Laser reset. But that dare from Edge, like the classic Falco recovery where you like try to catch them with the dare as you're coming up, has really been paying off on Rats' end, and good stuff to them.
It's good as a mix-up, but yeah, like so it always surprises me when it keeps working, and it is also because it is pretty good against Fox. But whenever Falcos do that to me and I catch onto them, I just backer them at 30 and they die. It's like you're instantly dead for that. Sometimes it works though, and they jump in or they try to shine it, and you down air them on the way up, and the other guy dies at 20. So
they just die. Yeah, it's one of those things. Great example of what I was trying to say before about like there's this thing. It seems really good. And it actually, like, when it works, it looks so amazing. But it is simply rock, and it still does lose to paper. And when it loses to paper, it looks, like, ugly. It looks like, what are you doing? What a beautiful call-out. And so much of the Fox-Falco interactions kind of boil down to that. And the people who do it well are the people who are constantly mixing up different options, constantly aware and kind of anticipating what the opponent is going to do.